As a youngster, Sean O'Neill was fascinated by the work of network announcers like George Finneman, Mason Adams, and Norman Rose. So it's no surprise that Sean got his first radio job when he was only 15 years old and attending high school in his home state of Florida. From there, it was off to the University of Florida and jobs in Jacksonville, Gainesville, Mobile, and Denver, before heading to Houston and KNUZ in 1979. From there, Sean went on to serve as production director, creative director, and air personality at KFMK, KLDE, KKBQ, KKRW, and KTRH, all in Houston. In 2001, he was named program director at KVST in Conroe. Sean's extreme production skills and awesome pipes eventually led him to Bill Young Productions in Houston, where he worked for almost 20 years. Some of his notable voice credits include Bob Dylan tours and record sales, the Simon and Garfunkel reunion tour, Don Rickles' final tour, George Carlin's last tour, and Luciano Pavarotti's final performance in New York City. Not to mention a ton of concert and car spots. And today, we welcome Sean O'Neill to the Texas Radio Hall of Fame.
Man, it's great to be here anywhere at this age. But it's especially nice to be on a nice autumnal day behind the pine curtain of East Texas. Some of y'all tell folks about Cruise General. You know, I usually say that I wouldn't want to be in any club that would have me a member, but this is the exception unless Bonnie King Charlie decides to knight me, or I finally get that Gambino family button, or if Dorothy Parker calls and asks me to join the Algonquin Round Table. Yeah, but this is it. This is the greatest professional honor of my life, and I have to distinguish it that way. My wife, Cindy, of almost 42 years, she said, marrying me was the greatest honor of your life, and she's right. It was, and I love you. Got our son, John Paul here. Thank you. Well, I didn't say stop. No, our daughter, Natalie, and grandson, Mr. Nolan, and son-in-law, Nick, couldn't be here today, but I had so many stories I was going to tell, but I would have to drop names. And I promised one of my very earliest mentors I wouldn't do it. I mean, he made me make a solemn promise, and that's not the kind of promise you break to Frank Sinatra. So I'm just going to have to scratch along as best I can here. Bob Stroop, inducted today, worked with him at 93Q, and if you've never talked to Bob, he speaks exactly like Frank Hill, or Hank Hill from King of the Hill. Anyway, I remember one Monday morning, one of the promotions kids came in, and because in addition to chief engineer, Bob was also the fleet manager, and this kid came in and says, well, one of the Broncos is smoking. And Bob said, well, damn it, Bobby, next thing you know, we'll be drinking and staying out late. Now, I heard the damn it, Bobby part. But the rest of it is pure Stroop. Cactus Jack, who decided to linger a little bit this summer. Great to see you here. Love you, man.
Love you too.
And I'm serious. Chuck Tiller, one of the very first people I met in Houston radio. Second night I was on the air at KNUZ. And the cool thing about KNUZ was it was owned by Dave Morris and his, band of whatever. I think the Texas Coast Rock, a bunch of veterans, they were on the same B-17 or something. Anyway, seeing the Dumont van over there reminds me that Dave put on KNUZ TV in 1954. And it was a Dumont station. And Dumont went out of business in 1954. And now that's Channel 39, which was Anyway, I'm moved to be in the same class as Chuck Schramek. You know, it's like if there's anyone you wanted to be here today, Chuck. I mean, anybody that sweet and that brilliant, and just that, he was a true Renaissance man. But there were so many. I'm trying to think now. The only thing that I can say at this point is that there was something that happened one night around 1980, 1981. I don't know where Rodney Renfro is, but he was there, and it was basically Buddy McGregor had come back. He had been one of the great DJs in Houston in the mid-'60s, and he came back and sold them on the idea of the KQ time machine, and great. And so basically it ran a year, and it was essentially the precursor of what we would eventually do on KMUZ. But one night towards the end, Buddy decided to, and Ronnie Renfro was the producer of the Buddy McGregor show, which means that he sat at a table most nights and played cards with me. And so we're sitting there in that little studio that Buddy was working from, and he put on Tangerine by Herb Alpert with Tijuana Brass. And it's playing in the background. And then he says, "Let everybody say goodnight, Buddy, in a foreign language." And so he opened up the phone lines, the non-delayed phone lines, the non-delayed, non-screened phone lines in a city of 4 million drunkards and rednecks. Yeah. So it was like watching a dynamite truck with 3 wheels going down the road at night, because you know it's going to happen and you can't keep your eyes on it. So, very sweet sounding lady says, "Auf Wiedersehen, Buddy." And he says, "Good night." And then you got, "Sayonara, Buddy." Good night. And then this guy called up. He said, "Yes, would you like to say good night, Buddy, in a foreign language?" And he said, "Adios." And then, it was the weirdest thing, he said something about Buddy's mom and fudge. Only he didn't say fudge. Renfro and I looked at each other. Want to cut? It's basically, like I said, you knew what was going to happen, and it wouldn't have been such a big deal, but the very next night, same thing, same exact thing. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you. I've forgotten most of the stuff I was going to say, but if any of you would like to say goodnight, Sean, in a foreign language, please give me her.